All right, guys. Hello, it's Amala.
It's Risa.
And today we're going to be talking about something interesting, beauty pageants.
There have been two viral stories in the past week about two unexpected winners, and it seemed to have angered and ruffled a lot of feathers.
Yeah, in Maryland, you have Miss Maryland USA, which is a Bailey Ann Kennedy, who happens to be a trans woman. And then you have the National American Miss competition that took place in Alabama, and Sarah Milliken won that, and she happens to be an overweight woman. So you got the body positivity movement at the forefront, you have the gender ideology movement at the forefront, and two winners here in an unlikely place in society, I feel like.
Yes, and most people have been seemingly angry about it, and there's been a lot of hate online. And then there have been people who are standing up for both women as well.
And I'll go ahead and say my opinion on this. I say woman lightly for one of these contestants.
I'm not like most girls. I have a penis.
That's just me, though. That's just me. Sorry, y'all. Okay. When you saw these stories, what did you think?
When it comes down to Miss Maryland and the trans woman that won, the first thing I think about is like they've already infiltrated so many different sports, and I'm like, really, this one too? So I don't think I was at all shocked, but it's just funny how it's only been so much time since this trans movement has been in our society, and they're already winning beauty pageants.
Yeah, and you know, it's relatively new for this to be happening in beauty pageants, but it has been happening. I think we saw this in the Netherlands. A trans woman won Miss Netherlands. The actual owner of Miss Universe, or I guess the CEO of the company that owns Miss Universe, is actually a trans woman themselves, and talks about how they're going to make Miss Universe into an institution that is for all women, which by that they mean biological men who identify as women.
From now on, it's going to be ran by women, owned by trans women, for all women.
So this has been inching itself into pageantry for quite some time. So like you, I can't say that I'm shocked either. Do you find yourself upset by this news? I don't know if that's the right word.
You obviously can see that trans women are biologically more advantaged to beat a lot of women in sports, right? So what I'm curious to know is, was this person actually better in all of the categories in a beauty pageant, which I don't quite understand either, but you kind of wonder, like, were you actually better at walking in your gown? Were you actually better at answering the questions, speaking, the bikini competition? Were all of those things taken into account, or was this trying to appease to a certain side of things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when these competitions were happening. But it is so interesting to see, like you said, all these places where biological men are now dominating. And I don't know how talented this individual actually is, but it does feel like a massive virtue signal that now if you are a trans person, you can enter a beauty pageant or virtually any other competition that typically involves biological women, and you will sort of fly to the top, either because you're a male who has biological advantages over those women, or you're dealing with a group of people who want to pat themselves on the back for having awarded you with this honor of being Miss Maryland USA in this case.
And then going into the Sarah Milliken story, from my understanding, the pageant that she's in is different from the traditional Miss American Miss USA.
I think it's like a junior pageant?
Yes. It's its own separate entity.
Right.
With that being said, I feel like there is a different standard of beauty that may have been accepted in that pageant. I feel like people were outraged saying, like, this is Miss Alabama, this is such an insult to Alabama. But in reality, it was kind of like a smaller, I shouldn't say maybe less important, or I should say it's less important organization.
Yeah, I guess the only argument that I would make is every single pageant is sort of a lead up to the bigger one. It's all part of like this hierarchy of moving up the ladder. So winning, Miss Alabama, the National American Miss pageant is sort of your step to getting further up in the ladder of pageants and virtually working your way up to Miss USA or Miss Universe or whatever the case may be. Nonetheless, she took home the winner's prize, and there have been pictures circulating of the other contestants that were part of this pageant, and people have, of course, not only subjected the winner to a ton of cyberbullying, but they're pointing out the other girls and saying, this one's more beautiful, this one's more that. I don't think we want to attack Sarah Milliken in particular.
We should criticize the people who decided the standards for the pageant.
Right, because if you're a trans woman or an overweight woman or whatever category you want to place yourself in when it comes to your femininity and how you show up as a woman, if you're given the opportunity to compete in a pageant and given the opportunity to win that pageant, I think most women are going to take up that opportunity. So it's not necessarily a blame to be placed on her. It's the greater institution at large. That being said, I'm not all that familiar with pageants. I'm looking at this from an outside perspective. And from my perspective, hopefully we get somebody who does pageants or is like deep within this culture who can comment on this video and let us know. I thought pageantry was about aspiration and who we aspire to be, who are the role models amongst us in society. And one of those aspirational things is maybe aspirational beauty, it's aspirational health and wellness. They have the talent category, they have the category where they're answering questions. So it's intellect, it's a skill set, it's all these different things mixed together. And it does feel a lot like the Miss Maryland story in that this is a virtue signal opportunity for the institution at large to choose somebody and say, despite maybe a glaringly obvious downside as far as this person being a role model, we still believe that this person is the role model who's meant to represent Miss Alabama.
Mm-hmm. It seems like every single thing has been stretched just to meet a certain standard and idea for other people. And I don't know, I just feel like if we look at the old-fashioned way of looking at beauty, this is obviously not the standard of beauty now. And they're just saying it to
appease people,
yeah.
Yeah, and we've seen this happen before. I'm remembering Victoria's Secret, which as a company and a brand, they decided to make this massive move towards body positivity, they called it, but it was ushering in, plus size models, bigger models, which is totally fine. There are people who need clothes and there are companies that need to manufacture those clothes, but that was not the Victoria's Secret brand. Much like this is not the brand of pageants. Pageants are supposed to be aspirational. Victoria's Secret was supposed to be aspirational. They tried out this body positivity movement and branding and it failed spectacularly, and they had to go right back to the traditional view of the angels and what is sort of like peak health and wellness, even if it was unattainable to most people. And I feel like that's what pageants are about. It's this sort of stunningly beautiful woman who's also smart and talented, and she wins, and it doesn't matter, whether or not everyone can be that. I think we sort of decide as a society that, oh yeah, she's a lucky one and not everybody can be that. Because if everybody can be everything, then nothing really has meaning anymore.
I watched some of her videos after the fact that she won, and she definitely was also virtue signaling about herself being a plus size person that won the pageant and how that was a very special thing to her as well.
I hope that they learn that no matter what your body looks like, no matter where you come from, you can do anything that you set your mind to. I didn't think that it was possible for a plus-size girl to win. I didn't think it was possible for a girl from small-town Alabama to win.
And you know what? I get that. I get that it is like a super special thing. If you consider yourself as somebody who would never be considered in a certain light, and suddenly society is making this shift where they do consider you in that light, even if it's artificial, which I believe it to be, this sort of artificial acceptance, you're going to take up that offer. But I would just argue that exclusivity is not always the worst thing in the world. And we're in this hyper-inclusive culture where we feel as though everybody needs to be included in everything. And it actually takes away the value of really unique things and unique achievements within our society. I look at myself and think about how I look or my intellect or what skills I have and what I have to contribute to the world, and I think I'm not ready for a pageant. There's no way in hell your girl's gonna enter a pageant and win. Well, now it's sort of up in the air because I guess we just allow men who identify as women to win and people of other categories to win these pageants. But that exclusivity doesn't make me feel like I'm being discriminated against. It doesn't make me feel like there's something wrong with me. It doesn't make me feel like I'm being alienated by society. It's just a simple fact and something that we have to accept. And instead of taking in that acceptance and just abiding by the general norms and rules that we have subscribed ourselves to as a society, we're just saying, let's upend every single norm and change it and chop it up and make it into something that no longer reflects reality. And it's almost as if we're all buying into this collective lie. We're looking at something that we all know it doesn't quite come off correctly, and we're just going, no, it's correct.
Yes, and you see all of these women applauding these other women, but for a damn fact that they don't want to be plus sized. They don't want to be competing against other men and the things that they're doing in their life.
Yeah, I saw a video the other day of this woman. She's saying, I'm a white woman, I'm a feminist, and I've never been threatened by a transgender woman. And one reason why I think that's the case is that, one, she's not competing in anything or doing anything substantial enough to where it would be threatened by a trans woman. But secondly, women have this thing. And you will find this out, and I'm gonna be the harsh person, I guess, that says it, right? Where the individual that's getting the most hype from the most women is the one who is the least threatening to women. They will pick out the least threatening among them and hype them up in order to make themselves look virtuous, to make themselves look nice and wonderful, as if they're oozing with positivity. But the reality is they're hyping up the person they're not threatened by.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. I mean, we see this in the dating shows that we watch. People are always going to tear down the woman that they find the most of a threat, the biggest competition.
Yeah, so then you'll find a bunch of women who never in their lives would ever compete in a pageant or be in a circle of people that compete in pageants. And they're the ones pushing for this and saying that this is okay and rallying for trans winners or winners that don't meet the standard of beauty for pageants. And it's because they don't feel threatened by those people and are willing to sacrifice the hard work of women who work all their lives to be parts of these pageants because it doesn't affect them. It's not a part of their lives, and they get to pat themselves on the back and look nice and great while women have their spots taken away from them. So yeah, I guess that's what's happening in the pageant world today, so that's fun.
And we're going to see more of this bullshit with other competitions. Of course, we're seeing it in sports all the time, but I don't know. I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
No, I think we'll have more and more stories like this, which is why you should subscribe to our channel. Because we'll keep you up to date on all this, guys.
And to do that, you like, subscribe, and click the notification bell.
Yes, you do. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop them in the comments down below. Even if you disagree with us, let us know how you feel about it. And particularly if you have been in the pageant world or in pageant culture, I would love to hear what you think of these two stories and if they're as shocking to you as they are to the rest of the world. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.